Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited. Today I have Dr. Laurito joining. Dr. Laurito is a good friend of mine. He's also a chiropractor out of Las Vegas, and he just started off his new brand, his new business in holistic health called Complete Care 3.0. Dr. Laredo, thank you so much for coming on. A lot of our viewers probably aren't going to know a whole lot about Complete Care 3.0, but they may not know very much about you. I know that you're a luminary in the Las Vegas market, but maybe just take a moment and tell everyone about yourself. Let them know kind of your background and your story.
Sure. Sean, first and foremost, thank you for having me on your podcast. Uh, I am super excited myself. Our new office is opening. We did a soft open last week, and next week we'll have it open full time here in Las Vegas. A little bit about my story and how I became a chiropractor. As about 40% of chiropractors, I was a patient. I was 18 years old. I happened to be in a auto accident with a DUI driver that hit me, and I never heard the word chiropractic. So for me, after going to a couple medical doctors, getting some pills and stuff, the pain wasn't going away, and so uh, I heard about this thing chiropractic. I went. I was again 18 years old, and my father always had a rule in the house: when you graduate high school, either you go to college or you move out. So at that point, I was like, oh man, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. Because I wasn't one of those kids at 14 that said, I'm going to be a fireman and I know what I want to be. Because I had no idea. But boy, when you have to either move out or go to school, you kind of, luckily, there was some divine intervention. And as much as I'm in the accident business or have been for the last 28 years, I don't believe in accidents, and I think everything happens for a reason. So in this instance, I was sent to a chiropractor, went to a chiropractor, and I found relief. And at the same time, I'm searching, like, what am I going to do for school? And I looked at this guy, and he was enjoying his work, was helping people, and he seemed like he was making a decent living. It checked all my boxes. So I was like, oh, okay, I want to be a chiropractor then. So this is before the internet, before emails. So I said to the doctor, where'd you go to school? And he said, Palmer, the fountainhead of chiropractic. And I said, do you have their number so I could call them? Because again, there's no internet. So he gave me their number, and I actually called the school and didn't know much. And their marketing department kind of helped guide me through what undergraduate work I had to do, and set out the journey. I went to school from 18 till graduated at 24. So it was 6 straight years through the summers. We have a trimester format of education in chiropractic college, where you do 3 trimesters a year instead of 2 semesters. So it takes a 5-year program and smashes it into like 3.5. And if you can stay up and graduate, which of course I did, then you can be out and with undergraduate, and it's a 6 to 7 year degree. So at 24 and a half, I graduated, and I came out to Las Vegas, where I've been since I was 10 years old. And I tried to get a job with all the chiropractors in town. Now, in 1994 and 5 is when in Las Vegas, HMOs, managed care, came into play. So what had happened was all the chiropractors who were living large, I'd say, and not necessarily aware of the political environment, didn't have a lobbyist in the North, didn't see it coming, and managed care came in and changed the entire landscape of healthcare. And of course, me as a new graduate with $100,000 in student loans and a whole bunch of fear, knocked on every door trying to find a job. I knew I had to learn from somebody before I went and opened my own business. And after going to these chiropractors, I found that they were all huddling into group practices because they weren't prepared. So overnight for them, workman's compensation went away, health insurance went away. And the same year, Allstate forged an initiative in Las Vegas, and they changed their claims practicing on personal injury. And they made it a much tougher environment. So what had happened was, after knocking on every door and trying everywhere to get a job, I realized they weren't hiring because they were just trying to save their own skin, maintain their own lifestyle. So they huddled into group practices. And I went to my father and I said, Dad, I can't get a job. I think I'm going to have to open on my own. And now my father was a paper route manager. This, again, way back. So he wasn't a white collar guy at all. We lived very modestly. And he took a line of credit out of his house, our house, for $30,000. And he goes, this is what I can do. So talk about pressure. My parents were amazing uh, parents. They raised me with an amazing opportunity, and I'm the youngest of six kids, so I'm the only one to go to college. So there was a huge amount of pressure and fear of failure. And I'm a generally driven guy, and when you put those kind of pressures on top of that, boy, I ran out of the gates as fast as I could. I knocked on every door. I went to special needs school to help the teachers, to talk about how to lift these kids without hurting your back. I just basically threw everything I could against the wall. My motto at that time was, anyone with a spine is a new patient of mine. And thank God everyone has a spine. So the entire Las Vegas area I started to engage with. And I had no budget for marketing and I had no advertising money. So I went and spoke at every free thing I could. I joined any organization and attended anything I could get a little 2-foot square space just to introduce myself, interact with the public, to, get out there. So I did that. And one of the breaks I did get was, and again, breaks are only given to those who, like Babe Ruth, swing 1,000 times, because 995 of them aren't going to work. So I said, where can I go? I was brainstorming and I said, I'm Italian and there's an Italian American club in town. So I went to the Italian American club dinner. I walked in this room and there was about, I don't know, 100, 150 people. Everyone had gray hair and I was 25. So I looked and saw one guy with dark hair and I went, I'm going to sit by him. So I sat by him. And again, I don't believe in accidents. I'm a big proponent of divine intervention and self-defining moments in your lowest points. And I sat next to this guy and I said, hi, I'm Dr. Laurito. And he said, hi, I'm Eddie. I said, what do you do? He said, well, I'm waiting to pass the bar. I'm an attorney, but I'm selling cars next door to the Italian American Club. So he was also out kind of getting his face out there. So from that point on, that was my first kind of break. He passed the bar, I passed the board, and so we worked together for many years. And he trained me on personal injury from an attorney's perspective, and that means how to answer questions, how to write reports, how to evaluate a case, how to send to the proper specialists that add value for that attorney, for that patient's monetary settlement. And so after several years of that, I found myself calling on attorneys. Now, I have a background of sales. I have a background of just about every job you can imagine until I was 18. But my last job was in phone sales, right at 17 years old. And I was selling ad specialties, business to business. So I was good on the phone. I could call. And so in between patients, when I opened my clinic in 1995, actually July 4th weekend was the soft open, and then we opened right after that. And I really couldn't afford any staff. I had my sister work the front desk, I worked the back, and that's how we started. For 6 months it was that way. I got my first assistant after 6 months, and then my first associate after a year, and then it started to roll. But personal injury is a very different animal when it comes to healthcare. People are in accidents, and if they're not at fault, and Nevada is what we call a fault-based state, meaning if you're not at fault, you're entitled to recovery for injuries, suffering, loss of wages, etc. So the patients from that environment are a little bit different in that you always got to be very open-eared when they are coming in the door, because they're all virtually suing somebody to get money, and they're using you as a provider to get better, but also generate documents that help their lawyer get them paid at the end. So,
Mhm.
most people are hurt. Some people play it up more than others, but at the end of the day, we treat patients that are in car accidents, not at fault. And what we do is then wait to get paid until a year to 3 years later when the attorney settles the case. So it's a very difficult model to start because you don't have cash flow for a year at the least. So as an entrepreneur, as a business person, looking at your cash flow cycles is really challenging. Again, I was motivated by the fear of failure. And at the end of the day, that wasn't an option. I was not going to make my dad have a mortgage on his house because I uh, didn't succeed. So I was driven. So as I treated patients, and there was a time when I was young and much more energetic, I will say, I had 100 patients a day I would see. And I worked from 8 to 8, and you know, my feet were very sore at the end of the day. And this is before computers, so we had paper charts. So I had to
Mhm.
write my notes every day. It was a very laborious and exhausting way to practice, but I didn't know any better because there wasn't electronic medical records at that time. So after treating patients over a couple years, I started to see a need for a medical doctor to be a part of the organization. And at that time, it was 1998, so 3 years in, I morphed the model to be Complete Care Medical Center. And I had a medical director that owned the company, and I had a management company. And that was to give me the ability to offer medical services as well in the personal injury arena. And so when patients come in and they need a pain medication or muscle relaxer, anti-inflammatory, we could do that in-house. And that kind of coincided with the naming of Complete Care at that time. Now, from 1998 for 18 years, I kept that model, and the trends in the market kind of dictated that uh, maybe having the medical component wasn't such a unique thing 18 years later, because by then most of my competition started to copy the model and also have that. So it wasn't a unique thing to really set me aside in the market anymore. So about 2011 or 12, uh, the medical doctor component of that and us parsed to where I went back to being the basics: chiropractic, auto accidents. And I've been doing that since about 2012. And we still do that at our main office. So in 2020 or so, COVID hit. Things were definitely different and challenging, especially in a patient care environment when you have with the masks and all of the stuff that was going on at that time. I started to see the vulnerability of having all your eggs in one basket. And to me, and as a business person as well, that's never a good strategy. So I started to think about different ways to offer services and different avenues to do that. Now, simultaneously, I have my doctor's been with me over 8 years, the chiropractor that sees most of the patients. And I could see that she was ready to also kind of go to the next level. And in that, I mean to treat patients that we know really need the care because they're paying for it in cash. And I say
Mhm.
that because, again, in the car accident area, these patients don't pay a penny. They get treated like a king or a queen, and for 3 months. And then at the end of it, when they finally get paid, they get a check. So it's a very difficult value proposition to exemplify with this model. And I say that because, again, we became doctors because we want to help people get better. If you've ever been in pain, back pain, leg pain, had a disc problem, it's debilitating on every level. You know, it affects your work, your relationships, your finances, your personal esteem. Depression ensues. So over the last couple years since COVID, and I started to look at this and think about this model, I said, I want to go into the wellness space. I think
Mm-hmm.
the wellness space is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and everything from regenerative medicine to uh, with stem cells or PRP to spinal decompression. And I was actually laying on a massage table on a Saturday night because I'm a little older, so that's a good Saturday night for me. And I'm just thinking, what is a good, unique thing I can do as a chiropractor that most chiropractors in Las Vegas do not do? There's only a couple that do it a little. And I said, manipulation under anesthesia. So our doctor here, Dr. Garcia, she uh, in 2016 was certified, and I got certified to do the manipulation under anesthesia. It requires two doctors to do it at the same time, one to stabilize the patient, because of course under anesthesia they're very limp, they're very out of it, so one has to hold them on the table while the other one does the procedure. And
Mm-hmm.
so as I'm laying on this table, I'm like, what could it be? And it was like one of those lightning bolts. I said MUA. So manipulation under anesthesia is what thrusted me to do this new launch. So we're changing now audiences, meaning we're not going after people in car accidents per se in this new model. Of course, we still do car accidents in our main office, and we will in our new office as well. But in this case, I wanted to directly go to the consumer, directly help people. And when you pay for something, you value it differently. We all know this. This isn't like your dad gives you a car, you're way less likely to worry about everything and take care of it, wash it, than if you earned it, via a job. And it's a different level. It's kind of like when you get your first apartment. It's weird how you become kind of clean. All of a sudden you care about like where things are. It's different. So thank
Yep.
God my father instilled those values and made me. I actually had two paper routes. I wanted money and I wanted to have a car. So I had a morning and an afternoon paper route, and I had to buy my first car. So I did value it. But when patients value it, and we do direct marketing now through Instagram, Facebook, and we get qualified people that do have problems and do want treatment, because what I found in the car accident realm is we treat them conservatively. If they're not better, we do an MRI, we send them to a pain doctor.
Mm.
And the pain doctor gives them either pain medications and or offers procedures such as epidural injections, uh, everything up into spinal surgery. So I thought, there's a middle ground there. And I want to create a preemptive space that we could try at a fourth of the cost of injections. We could try this MUA thing. So in 2016, we started to test this, and we did over 200 cases for car accidents with the MUA procedure intertwined with our therapeutic regimen that we offer in that 3-month period. And what we found was amazing. We found over 93% of those 200 people were remarkably improved. And the 3% that weren't remarkable were a little better. So I said, we're on to something here. So because the legal medical realm, the lawyer's job is to get the patient the most money they can. And they're not doctors, and they are, I would say most of them are a little less compassionate than doctors. And so that being said, they usually would like to see the injections because they cost $25,000. Whereas our MUA procedure with the center and the anesthesia is roughly $5,000. So a lot of the attorneys weren't approving or allowing these patients to get these procedures because the insurance company also pushed back and said, oh, this is a new thing, which, by the way, MUA has been being done over 40 years in the medical community. This is what also helped me say, we got to go direct to the consumer, because I see so many people that are in pain, back pain, neck pain, pinched nerve, slip disc, ruptured disc, coughing makes you, have sharp pains. And when, in this town especially, there's a lot of construction going on. There's a lot of manual labor on top of the regular population that's not manual, but sitting in a computer all day. Their legs become tighter and less active. And if you're not working out and doing any resistive training, it's very difficult to avoid back pain. They say 80% of people have back pain, and 80% of people also have disc bulges, protrusions, herniations, slip disc, whatever term you want to apply, discal problems. But the interesting thing is that 80% have back pain, 80% have disc problems, but it's not directly correlated, meaning
Mm-hmm.
people walk around with disc problems and don't have symptoms. And some people have symptoms and don't have disc problems. So it's very perplexing as a clinician to delineate that and then to be able to assign treatment regimens to it. So what we have done is we created a new entity in a new location and a brand new clinic, which hopefully we'll get some links in some description or something to see the new facility, because it's beautiful and it's starting to open full-time next week. So I'm super excited for that. Now, in this new clinic, we simply cater to disc patients, and we have two modalities that we'll use. So our first level is what we call non-surgical spinal decompression. And this has been out for 40 years as well. This is the last 20 years, the literature to support its effectiveness is ubiquitous. And it's basically a table that tractions the spine. And I have a spine here to kind of show you. But these little things in the middle of the bones are the discs. And in these discs, what happens is when you have a bulging disc, which I can show you on this side, this red thing, what the machine does is you're on your back, and depending on the level of the disc bulge or herniation, the machine we hook up, it's kind of like a wench on a side-by-side, or it's kind of a cable that hooks to a harness that's wrapped around your pelvis. And what this machine does, it's amazing. It tractions the spine and it decompresses the pressure within this space, and it can help to pull this little herniation back in. There's documented studies that show 11 millimeter discs going back into the spinal canal, taking the pressure off the nerve. So that is in and of itself amazing. The sleep chiropractic is what we're terming the manipulation under anesthesia. We call it sleep chiropractic because you've heard of sleep dentistry, people that are afraid of the drill or afraid of anything. That sleep chiropractic is so effective because every muscle, every ligament, everything in your body is completely flaccid. So you're loose and limp. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody hypnotized and these guys go, you're loose and limp like a rag doll, and you fall. Well, that's how you are under anesthesia. And when Dr. Garcia and myself, we traction your spine, it's sometimes like an accordion. You just hear, because the intrinsic tensions that are in those spinal muscles are constantly contracted. Even when you're rested, sleeping, they're still there. So when that tightness is there and we want to go in and manipulate or expand that space, there's intrinsic tightness that prohibits us from it. But when you're under anesthesia, it's amazing. So not to confuse the two modalities, I want to specify that spinal decompression, you're completely awake and aware. A lot of people do fall asleep during the treatment because it's about 20 to 40 minutes, depending on the severity, your age, the level. And you just lay on this table and and you're awake in the beginning. And the spinal decompression, as it starts to decompress those discs and you start to relax, most people do fall asleep during the procedure. And then we wake up and then we do some other therapies to make sure to remodel that spine with the muscles in the back, the ligaments, and we give you a very specific training and post-procedural care in the non-surgical spinal decompression modality. The sleep chiropractic, that's for some patients, that's the choice if they've already tried everything else. And the sleep chiropractic is the one that we go with because it's the most applicable for that patient. then that procedure, it's done within an hour. It's done at a surgery center with a board certified anesthesiologist. It's in and out in 1 hour. The procedure only takes 15 minutes. By the time you close your eyes and you're out, we're done in 15 minutes. And then when they wake up 15 minutes later and they're out the door in 30 minutes. So it's a in and out procedure for 1 hour. And we have found, again, 93% of people getting better. You know,
Wow.
and I have to reiterate, the 93% that we did from 2016 to 20 was on car accident patients. Again,
Mm-hmm.
if I remind you from the beginning, car accident patients have different motivations when they come into
Mm-hmm.
the clinic. Again, they're suing somebody. So I thought, my
Mm-hmm.
God, if we're getting these kind of results with people, that we have to be very open-eared and open-eyed on how they're presenting to us. And we can do this direct to the consumer. What an opportunity. So
Yeah.
of course, when it came to picking a name and doing this, and like I said, I've been here almost 30 years, 28 and a half, we'll say now. There's some, recognition of our name, but it's always been in the car accident domain. So I didn't want to just make it another Complete Care. And as I told you, I have now 3 iterations of this company. And I was listening to a book by Dr. Peter Attia. And if you haven't heard the book, it's called Outlive. And it's about
Mm-hmm.
increasing your health span, not your lifespan. A lot of us want to
Yep.
live, till we're 80 or 90 years old, but we are sick the last 20 or 30, and that's not a good life. So his
Right.
book was so moving and interesting to me, and it made me really think, because he referred consistently through there about the different iterations of medicine. He would,
Mm-hmm.
he started with medicine 1.0 was sanitary, uh, sterility, knowing that, wow, no wonder people get infected if they cut them open and don't sterilize. So that was medicine 1.0. Medicine 2.0, he talked about antibiotics, which, of
Mm-hmm.
course, and vaccines with polio and everything that happened in the 40s and 50s. And so then he kept referring to this medicine 3.0, which is really talking about biomarkers, talking about all these different ways to measure, because now we have a lot more technical abilities to see more than just a front global like picture of a patient. We can dig in and see what
Mm-hmm.
other things are helping or not helping and causing things. So as I kept listening to his book, I was like, Complete Care Injury Center is our current auto accident clinic, but I came up with Complete Care 3.0 because this is the 3rd iteration of the organization. And we definitely are at the cutting edge of everything. Our new office is amazing with the latest, greatest equipment, x-ray. We even have a gym there that we actually rehab patients post-procedurally, pre-procedurally, depending on the patient. So we've really gone out of our way to really attack this market in a very strategic way, very specifically catering to patients. Because I'll tell you, if you're in pain for more than, for me, it's more than a day. I'm a real wuss when it comes to pain. But when it
Me
comes
too.
to patients, uh, you know, 6 months of pain, I mean, if you got to
Mm-hmm.
use your health insurance, you might see a primary if you can get an appointment within the first month. Then you have to go to some conservative care before they can order an MRI. So you're already 6 months in pain. Now, if you
Yep.
have a manual labor job, you can't do that, depending on the level of your pain. And I've always been amazed at the resilience of humans, that you have to be able to, they have to feed their family, they have to work.
Yep. Yep.
So if you go through the traditional medical model, you're looking at 3 to 6 months of being in pain to then get the MRI to then maybe say, oh, got to go to a pain guy. Now
And
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and not only that, you risk. I know it's gotten better, but a few weeks ago, my wife and I we watched a documentary on Netflix. I think it was called Dope Sick, and it was all about the hydrocodone and how addictive those pain medications are. And it was so sad. Some of the stories of exactly the type of person you're referring to, people who work in construction who got hurt, who wanted only to just continue to put food on their family's table, went to their doctor, trusted their doctor. And I'm not blaming the doctors. I'm not blaming anyone. It's just there's probably a lot of blame to go around, and that's not why I'm here. It's just a sad story of getting hooked on this medication and us knowing what we know today, that there were alternatives to that pill, and some of that is the spinal decompression, some of that is the manipulation. How things could have been different if our current model of traditional medicine, which I've worked in healthcare M&A for 11 years, and even my AI software company is targeted towards healthcare companies, is it's a very slow changing system. It's highly regulated. Uh, Not only is it federally run, but each state has their own state legislator, and we all know how slow and how different agendas in the political world can affect different pieces of legislation. And it's just so sad that there's these other alternatives that some people don't even know about, because they were taught at a young age, when I don't feel well, I go to the doctor and I have my health insurance, and the health insurance tells me exactly what I can and can't do. Like you said, they managed my care, and it's led to some very, very sad repercussions and consequences in our society.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the pain epidemic that has occurred, and it took us, what, 10, 15 years to create the pain epidemic, and now they're trying to unwind it with changing the laws. But you know, and I know, big wheels turn slow. To
Mm-hmm.
turn a big warship, it takes a lot of advanced work. So, like you said, it takes time and for legislation and things to actually come in and change things. And again, that's why I found, listen, if you're in pain and we have financing options available, we make it as absolutely easy as possible to get you out of pain. It's not a super expensive procedure, but at the end of the day, if you're in pain, you'll get you'll get what you need. And I found, with health insurance nowadays, the deductibles and copays are not much less. And you got to decide how much is your pain worth. Like, if you're going to be in pain for 6 to 9 months and it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s versus, I mean, there's no value you can put on your health. But to pain specifically, you know, the mass epidemic that has occurred is one of the many problems our society is plagued with. So that's why I'm so excited to offer this to the general public, because most of the general public has never heard of these two options, and it's
Right.
not in the managed care system. And so that's why I'm going direct to social media and to Google and to public events to basically get the word out, because there are alternatives and they are
Yep.
super effective. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what thrusted me to do this. At 54 years old, I didn't think I was going to be in the game running this type of new adventure, but at the end of the day, I'll quote Helen Keller: "Life is a daring adventure or nothing at all." So for me, uh, I need a daring adventure, and it's as scary as it is opening a new office. I haven't opened an office in 28 years. It's a little bit scary, but at the end of the day, having a moral compass and having a, a, a reason and purpose and meaning to the work makes it a lot easier and more palatable. But at the end of the day, when you see people changing, you change lives when you get them back on their feet and out of pain. And that's our goal. And so we're launching this new initiative. Or we have launched it. Next week, we're open full time. We are in Las Vegas. We're just about 3 miles off of the strip in the West Summerlin area. Um, any of your watchers or viewers that you want to, I'm sure you'll put a link in some description or something that they can find.
Definitely.
But I'm so glad that you offered to have me on the podcast, because I think this is the first step, is just educating the world. And
And your message is super important, because you mentioned you have so much to unpack. I'd love to have you on a second time, to talk more about a couple other things that I'll bring up loosely here. But you brought up some of the changes when the HMO system came out in 1994. Now, I was young when that actually happened, but in my career I had to learn about that. And if you really think about it, there's a lot of similarities as to what's going on today in traditional medicine with the value-based care system. And I'm not here to bash any type of innovation. Um, I understand that the cost of healthcare in the United States is per capita is the in total and per capita is the highest in the entire world. And in my opinion, when it comes to economic problems, when it comes to economic problems in the United States, almost all roads lead back to healthcare. I'll give you a great example. People talk about inflation. I saw a special. This was years ago. Around this was actually around the 2008 crisis. If you remember when the big automakers were bailed out in 2008, like the General Motors,
Yes.
and I read an article about why General Motors was having a hard time competing with, say, foreign made cars from like Japan, like the Hondas and the Toyotas. The reason that the Chevrolet Tahoe back then cost like 70 grand and it's only got up from then was, no lie, $50,000 of the price tag was allocated for healthcare. That
Yeah.
was why that's why the US cars were so much more expensive, because the healthcare costs that the companies had to pay to cover all their assembly line workers and the unionization of it all. But it really was the healthcare cost. The health insurance was so expensive that the car price was 20-30% above all the competitors.
Yeah.
So it affects all aspects of our society, even indirectly. But when it comes to value-based care, if you think about our previous model, which was fee for service, and I know you did a lot of personal injury, which was different, but in healthcare, fee for service, for those who don't know, means that a physician provides a service, and typically you would put a diagnosis code along with the CPT or HCPCS code, and then the insurance companies, this would be like Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, Aetna, etc. Those are the big ones. Are gonna you have the physician has a contract with these payers, and they're gonna pay you X dollars per CPT code, fee for service. Physician provides a service, physician gets paid by per the contract for the service. We're moving towards this new model called value-based care, where it's essentially like HMO 2.0, where they take these starting with Medicare beneficiaries and they pool them together. Think about the subprime mortgage crisis, where they were pooling all these mortgages together and saying, "Hey, you know, on its own, all these mortgages individually are super high risk, but for whatever reason, when we pool them all together, the risk profile goes down." Well, that's what they're doing with people based on their health, saying, "Okay, hey, we're going to put all these people together and we're going to risk score that population of people, and then we're going to go to the physicians, and the physicians are going to get paid a per member per month rate to manage the care of this population's health."
Yeah. They call
But
it
it's
capitation. Yeah.
a capitation payment, right? The issue is it's a full risk model. That's where there's multiple models, but where they really want to get it stated is by 2030 they want all physicians who take Medicare to be on a full risk model, meaning that yes, you're going to get paid a high amount of revenue for each person that you're caring for, but the cost is all up to you. You have to manage the cost, and if your costs exceed the capitation payments, oh well, so be it. It's full risk. You're in the red. Well, if you really think about the incentive structure here, I understand fee for service can incentivize physicians to provide too many services, right? And they call it waste. The problem is, I think most physicians, not all, I think most physicians, chiropractors in that game are like you. They're out to help people. And at least in a fee for service model, patient goes to the physician with a need. The physician wants to fulfill with a service because that's the incentive structure. In a value based care full risk model, if all I can do to make sure I, as a doctor, take home pay to feed my family, which, oh, by the way, you paid a lot of money to go to school for a long time. Most physicians come out of school in debt, and so they have to make money. They feel that pressure that you referred to when your dad took out that line of credit loan. And well, how do you make sure you're going to bring home money? By not providing services, because that's the only way to really control your costs, or by cutting corners some other way, maybe not hiring people, whatever the case may be. You have to cut your cost.
Yeah, and you see it. The medical community has segmented itself so well, and it's such a CYA uh, issue that everyone is siloed into their care. So you can look at it many ways. Yeah, we want the best specialists to be at the highest level of competence for sure, leading research, leading everything. But if you remember, well, you might not, but way back, a general doctor, especially in a small rural town, did everything. So
Hmm.
you could go to him for high blood pressure, or you could go for him if you broke a bone, or you could go for him if you had this or that. And then if it was maybe something super complex like brain injuries, maybe they had to go to a bigger city. But now, I mean, I literally, now that I'm over 50, go for your annual colonoscopy, right? Took me nine, and I'm in the field, took me 9 months to get a screening colonoscopy. And,
And the PCPs don't even exist. They're basically bankrupt.
They're 3 months out to get a new patient in for most primary care physicians in the managed care space. That's why you see all these concierge medicine doctors popping
Hmm.
up everywhere. Because, like I'm saying, listen, if you need care and you have the ability to pay for it, you should be able to.
Yep.
I was in Spain last year for an extended period of time. I got sick twice.
Hmm.
I had a doctor literally come to my hotel for $150, give me my prescription. I didn't have to wait. He came to me. So, as much as I'm not all for socialism, I'm telling you, the healthcare system is broken, and we need
Hmm.
some new, innovative ways to approach it. The challenge is we've not only siloed all these disciplines so that, no one's really looking at the full picture, but then we have the insurance companies making calls on whether a patient should be approved or denied for a diagnostic test. And it's forced the medical community to evolve. And some of that evolution has not been good. Some of it has, just like I'm doing, forced us outside of that system to go direct to the consumers. Because at the end of the day, people will pay for things they value. I mean, we
Yep.
see it all the time. And I can't imagine a more valuable thing than your health, because if you don't have your health, you can't have anything else. So
That's
wealth,
right.
wealth without health is not really wealth.
That's
You
right.
and you can't buy, at least not yet, can't buy a new set of lungs and a new heart and just go get it changed out. I mean, we have to really think about it, and that's why again I talk about that book from Dr. Peter Attia. It really changed my head on a lot of ways to look at the longevity and the health span of our lives. And at the end of the day, none of us are getting younger. And if we don't intentionally do something to improve our health or sustain it, then we're definitely going to degrade and become arthritic. And, you know, I had visited a spine surgeon friend of mine yesterday. His waiting room was so full with debilitated patients. And I
Mm.
mean, all assisted walking, walkers, canes, crutches, whatever. And, we were talking in the back, and I said to him, Doc, are most of these people from injuries? He goes, nope, it's just from living on earth, watching TV, and not taking
Mm.
care of themselves, eating the regular food that's dished out, all the processed food. So,
Mm. Mm.
our DNA is great, but if we don't feed it right, then it's gonna degenerate. And from the day we are born, we're aging. So if we
Mhm.
don't start to intercede at age 30 and 40 and really start to live a healthier life, as I travel, sometimes I see these old people traveling to Europe for the first time in their 70s, and
Yeah.
they are not very ambulatory. And over in Europe, if you don't know, there's not a bunch of AMA guidelines or ADA guidelines, I mean, where there's wheelchair access. I mean, these are thousands of year old buildings and walkways and streets.
Yeah.
So I feel so bad for people that don't understand the investment it takes to stay healthy, but then they work their whole life and then they retire and they go to travel and they can't get around. They can't see things that they would have dreamed of seeing their whole life. And that's if they're pain free enough to go on a vacation. But then if you
Yeah.
get into pain or have an injury or you can't get out of your own bed, then how are you going to do anything? So that's why I'm
Yeah.
super excited to have Complete Care 3.0 on the map. We are starting to serve our populace here in Las Vegas. We have a $49 special. You can come in, you can get x-rayed, you can get your exam, and even your first treatment. And that's for the first 3 months we're going to be open.
Hmm.
So for $49, you can come in and be assessed and see if what I'm telling you is the truth. Um,
I love
and
that.
back to the point you made about most doctors do care about people. Absolutely. I mean, I always use the joke. If I didn't care about people, I'd have been a lawyer. And that's just my joke. But at the end of the day, we all do take a Hippocratic oath to help patients get better. And it
That's
breaks
right.
my heart to see patients in pain for prolonged periods and then shuffled in this managed care system of no return or no real hope. So,
Yeah,
again,
and and one of my missions, and why I really enjoy talking to you, Dr. Laredo, is not only are you great at what you do from caring for patients, it is evident to me. You didn't even have to say the words. Now, not everyone's going to pick up on it because I know not everyone studies entrepreneurship and business like I do, but you touched on so many important things of just being a high performer from an entrepreneurial, from a business standpoint, that I just want to point out to you as a compliment, but also to the people who watch and listen to my show from more of a business perspective is one, you intersected your passion and purpose with what you do to make money. The first thing that you talked about in your story was my dad had a rule. I grew up in a similar house. You go to college or go find a job and you're on your own, buddy. Um and so you wanted to go to college. You obviously were smart, you were gifted, you wanted to do something, you wanted to help people, and you thought like, well, I need some intrinsic motivation. I need to find something that I actually enjoy, that I love to do, so I can wake up every day, even when it gets hard, and still find that intrinsic motivation to go to work. A lot of people that don't do that, and I think that's awesome. I wanted to point that out.
thank you.
And then you go through and you talk about, hey, it got hard. You entered your passion, your calling, your career at a time period when there was a lot of changes, and there wasn't just a job just sitting there waiting for you. You had to go make your own place.
For sure.
You had to you fit in isn't the right word, but you had to go build your own home, your own place of work to make yourself fit in. And as you're going through that, you mentioned you caught a break. I've caught some breaks in my career, but what really you were doing was you were giving yourself the opportunity. You were taking as many at bats, and even if you struck out, even if you hit a single, or even if you hit a foul ball, you didn't care. You kept swinging. I can't imagine how many times you got told no, because I get told no a ton, and I
Yeah.
just I take a moment, I take a breath, and I remind myself like, hey, they're not saying no to me as a person, they're just saying no to whatever pitch or offer I have, and that's okay. And let me move on and give my next one,
Yep.
and not taking things. And but I bring this up, Dr. Laredo, because over my 10-year, 11-year career in healthcare, unfortunately, there are a lot of physicians who are not very business savvy. and who didn't grow up doing paper routes, who didn't grow up selling telephone systems and telephone advertising. And one thing that you said early on, I think it was the first or second time we ever spoke, and it had nothing to do with the podcast. This was before a podcast had even entered, well, it entered my mind because I always want to set one up, but before it was even a possibility for me, was we were talking about business stuff, and you said, you know what? I have a lot of different interests, and it's okay to have a lot of different interests, but I stay focused and I take baby steps and I do one thing at a time. And when you talk about complete care, this wasn't a, hey, I woke up one morning and just decided to open up something new. No, you tested something. You said since 2016, you've been testing this manipulation under anesthesia or sleep chiropractor, and you got certified in it. You already know from your own data, so it's a data driven decision as well. 93% of people benefit from this practice. And you even mentioned it, the agenda of some of these people is for it not to work so that they can keep getting care, so that they can hopefully get a bigger check at the end of the day. And still 93% of people reported, hey, this worked. I mean, that's powerful data. And I'll also say this, you have a wonderful team, a fantastic team.
Thank
Even the people that are more, I'd say, vendors or consultants. I met the young woman who does some helps you with marketing and branding, and I can't tell you how impressed I am by her and by the people and the wise counsel that you surrounded yourself with. Um, if any doctors are watching, it's okay to be vulnerable and say, you know what, like I might need help in what I'm doing. I might need to go seek out, some type of business advisor or business coach, or maybe I'm pretty good at business, but hey, I haven't marketed something. Like you went and found, your team of people who put their intellect and helped you really build not just a great business, but a great brand that resonates with people.
thank you.
And I see your stuff on Facebook, and it's great. Um, and so I just want to give you that compliment really more
Well,
than
thank you.
anything.
Thank you. And that's Christine, our branding specialist, who's been with me for over a couple of years now on different projects. But she really kept me, I didn't understand the whole launching of a brand thing from a perspective that somebody who does that professionally. So we did many workshops, we did many iterations to get to this place. And it was the final call on the name. And I went through 1,000 names. And I said, it only makes sense to have it be complete care. And then let's just put 3.0 on it because we want it to be new and unique and different. So thank you for those lovely comments. And, it's the old Henry Ford principle, surround yourself with experts. And
Sure.
I don't profess to be an expert in much. And I know my weaknesses and areas of improvement. So I always look for team members and also from different industries. I think is very helpful to get different looks at stuff. I remember reading a book years ago about, Michael Dell, the first billionaire that was worth more billions than he was years old. That's a nice thing. And he sent his top team, and I don't know if that still happens or not, but years ago when I read this, he sent his top team members to go to dissimilar industry kind of conventions to get
Hmm.
a different look at stuff. And he also would seclude himself for a month in Hawaii to just think and disconnect. And that was before social media was a big deal. So
Yeah.
there is such value to different industry looks and perspectives, and constantly learning and constantly being open to learning. And your ego is not your amigo, and the more you let that interrupt your decision making and your choices to make, the more bad choices you'll make. So
Yeah.
humility is probably the key to everything in life. humility and compassion. And those are some of the values that we have imbibed in our new brand, and that we will walk forward with forever.
And the other compliment I want to give you is, especially now in the world of social media and branding and all that stuff is so super important. Um, I did some market research when I was out in Vegas meeting you, and one of the first things that I do is I go to the Google reviews, right? And your the words expressed about you from your patients on your Google reviews, and the amount. I mean, I don't want to misspeak. It's been
I think it's
almost 3 months
400.
since I've been out there, but I think it's like over 500 reviews on Google for complete care personal injury. Um, it's like a 4.9 or 5.0 rating, over 500 reviews, and everything talks about. And you got to remember, these are majority of them patients from auto accidents coming to you by referrals from attorneys that aren't always there just for getting care, right? There's other things at play for some of these people at least. And what they said about you, how much you care, the compassion you had for them, how
Yeah.
much you helped them.
And I'd
The
love to
reason I,
at it, but it's the
the
team.
reason I bring this up, Dr. Rado, is that those are the types of comments that people pay thousands of dollars for people to go make up for them on their Google reviews. And I bring it up because you had so many, and they went back for so long, because like you said, you've been there for so long, that you can tell they're authentic, because you can't even pay people to talk like that. You
Right.
can only get those types of compliments by actually caring and being exactly what you say you are. So I bring that up because I know that some people are going to be listening and they're not going to really know you, and they may not even live in Las Vegas. But I was so impressed by you, and I don't believe in accidents either. And so much of you resonates with me. And although we do different things, there's a lot of similarities. And I just want people to know just how authentic and genuine you are.
Well, thank you, Sean, for all those compliments. Again, it's the team, as you'll see on the reviews. Most of it's about the team. Not that we're not great, but it's the team that makes the impression, because it's the environment. When they walk in, they feel it. You feel an energy. It's nothing worse
Yeah.
than walking in an office with a big glass door. Chick slides it open, hands you a pen. We're very connected to our patient base, and they feel that. And so, and
But it takes a leader to do that. And you're
yeah,
definitely the leader of that organization. And so I know today was more about, the launch of your new brand. So I want to give you the last word here about that for just a moment. But I'd love to have you back on for, a a follow up, but maybe a discussion on leadership and just healthcare in general, and just life and longevity and all these other passions and pursuits that you have, because you're such an interesting, educated person that um you have a lot of value to give outside of what you do. But I
well,
don't want to take anything else away. I want to give you the last few moments here to
when we do
to
another
conclude.
one, when we do another podcast, we'll do it at the new office. I could show you around. It'd be nice.
I'd love to. I'll come out there, and I'll bring some mobile equipment, and we'll do it in person. I love that idea.
That'd be great. And so the message I want you to all get from this is that there is hope if you're in chronic pain. You've tried everything else. Come see us. For the first 3 months, it'll cost you $50, $49. Come in, let us see your imaging or take it. Let us counsel you and give you these options. It's not okay to stay in pain. And I know if you're taking medications and you want to get off them, but you need to get rid of the pain, we're here for you. We're on the west side of Las Vegas. We do spinal decompression, non-surgical. We also do sleep chiropractic. We have an amazing team, and thank you for all those kind words. And just come out and see us, and let's get you out of pain, and let's improve your life. That's my message.
Awesome. Dr. Rado, thank you again so much. Can't wait to come back out and visit you in Vegas. And I know so many people are going to be positively impacted just by this podcast alone.
Perfect.
So thank you again.
Thank you, Sean. Have a wonderful day. See you.